guys. How you doing today? It's Sunday, December 11th, which means it is 2 weeks until Christmas. Can you believe it? Are you ready? I kind of am, kind of not. Got a few more things to get, little things, but it's coming soon. Seems like once Thanksgiving hits, it just rolls like a runaway train, doesn't it? But we're going to make it. We're going to get through the end of the year, and we're going to be okay. It's going to be all right. We've had a good day today. It's about 4 o'clock in the afternoon while I'm doing this. We had a really cool morning at church this morning. We had a good service to begin with, good worship, good preaching. At the end of the service, well, before the sermon, we did a baptism. A young girl was baptized, which is always nice to see. But at the end of the service, I've never seen this before, we had an adoption ceremony. A judge came, a couple was adopting a little boy they've had from birth. He's about 7 months old, cute as a button, head full of dark hair, just adorable. And they did the final adoption step. He, swore them in. He promised to tell the truth. This child's yours. All the rights and responsibilities and all of that. And then signed the adoption order and pronounced them a family, and it was awesome. They got a standing ovation. I mean, it was just precious, and I've never seen that in church before. I wish they would do it more. It's so inspiring, and it was just so sweet, and so it was a great way to end the church service. I loved it. It was different, but it's one of those things. I'm just like still wiping tears going out in the parking lot, heading to the truck. But I don't mind crying over stuff like that. That's just sweet and tender, and that sweet little family now has this little boy, and he has them. And I don't know the circumstances of the adoption or anything like that. I don't have to know. It's just wonderful to know how God puts people together, isn't it? And puts families together and blesses them. So it was really neat to be a part of that. And I thought it was really a little bit symbolic. I don't want to read, I don't want to get too crazy with it. But, this family chose this little baby, and they will, he's theirs and they're his forever, which is kind of what God does with us, isn't it? And when we're his forever, and there's nothing better. That's the best family in the world to be part of. And what an amazing thing to celebrate this time of year is just that adoption by God, and that God choosing us to be part of his family forever. So it was really kind of neat. I loved it. And then we went to Tallahassee and had lunch with my niece and her friend, and that was really fun. So it's been a good day for us. We're tired, but we're old. So it's been a big day for us. It's been a full day. But we had fun with them, and so we're back home now and trying to do a few things to get ready for the start of the week. And so this is one of those things. So this is going to be the video, I think, where I learn to edit and put it up on YouTube and all of that. I need to learn how to do that. So we'll see how that works. But Jeff's taking a nap right now, so when he gets up, we'll work on this. So anyway, I hope you guys are doing well. I know it gets crazy busy. We have not been invited to lots of parties. We never are, which is fine with me. I never feel left out. because I don't want to go to a lot of parties. But I know some of you, between work and friends and everything else, probably have lots of invitations to parties and cantatas and plays, Christmas plays with your kids and all that kind of stuff. And I was listening to a podcast earlier this week where they were talking about, how we do food diets when we have been eating too much and we need to restrict that. And we do, sometimes people will do social media diets, where they'll just say, I'm not going to be on Facebook this month, or, I'm just taking a break or whatever. And I wish I could remember what podcast it was so I could reference it. But she just said, you know what, why can't we have a gathering diet where we're able to just say, you know what, our schedule's full. Even if there's one thing on it, if that's enough, then it should be enough for us to be able to say, you know what, we're really at our limit and we'd love to go. Thank you for inviting us, or thank you for inviting me if it's just you, whatever. But to feel free to set some limits, some healthy limits and boundaries for yourself. People aren't going to stop being your friend if you don't go to their party or if you don't come to the gathering or whatever. And if they do stop being your friend because of that, they never really were your friend anyway. So the whole point of that is, and I know we talk, you hear people talk about it on all over the place. But just to say, you know what, I don't want to get caught up in all of that this year. I want to be home with my family. I want to be home decorating my house or reading my book or sitting on my back porch, drinking coffee or tea or whatever. And I want to be like Mary, sitting at the feet of Jesus, just not worrying about all the preparation and all the food and all the hostess gifts or the hostess duties. I just want to sit at the feet of Jesus and listen and learn and let him speak to my heart, But that, you have to be intentional about that. And especially if it's not so hard for me because I'm really a hermit and, just bordering on antisocial. So it's not a hard thing for me. But if you are somebody who likes parties and being with people and all the busyness, it's not a bad thing. But even social butterflies sometimes need to you just need some time to breathe again and rest a little bit. So don't feel bad about that. I think more people appreciate that limit that we set than we think. We feel like people just want to be super busy all year long or all month long. And I think most of us just kind of want to be able to take a breath a little bit. So, but it doesn't matter what other people need. What matters is that you set some good boundaries for yourself and don't feel bad about it. Just tell people you're taking a gathering diet. That's what they called it on the podcast. And I thought, that's a great thing. I think we need to think about that. So, gathering diet, set some limits for yourself. That's good. Peach tea. Really good. Very hot. So I was trying to remember all the little things I wanted to say today. I know this is kind of the time of year where we're thinking ahead to New Year's goals or resolutions, whatever you make, whatever you do. But maybe it's also the time when we start dreaming about what we want to do, and so many things can get in the way of those dreams, can't they? I'm reading a really good book right now called You're Made for a God-Sized Dream. And you can see, my little, that's how I read books. I've told you that, with a little thing of flags and a highlighter. Because I want to remember stuff, and I want to be able to find it when I can go back and find it when I want to. But she is talking about dreams and the things that get in the way of our dreams and of us dreaming big and dreaming a God-sized dream. And I want to talk about that this week and next week a little bit. And as we're going through, it's not really a Christmas thing, but it is a God thing. And as we're thinking about next year and praying about the things that God really would like for us to do and be involved in, I think it's important to remember some things that can get in the way and some thoughts about those things. So I want to talk a little bit about that today and next week. And then the next week will be Christmas Sunday, which is amazing. So, but let me read this to you. Just a few of her little thoughts early on in the book that I think we're going to reference over and over again as we go through. We're talking of God-sized dreams, about how they are messy, imperfect, glorious, and flawed, because we are too. And one phrase keeps reverberating through my being: if not for grace, if not for grace. If not for grace, God-sized dreams would never come true, because I can tell you from experience, you will cry at the wrong time. You will say that awkward thing. You will forget what to do in that most important moment, and God, in His stubbornness, will carry on with His plan anyway. You will fail at least once and probably more. You will think you're incapable, and sometimes you will be. But God, in His audacity, will use you anyway. You will miss opportunities. You will take steps you shouldn't. You will walk through the wrong door and shut the right one. And somehow, inexplicably, God will get you there anyway. You will be hard to live with sometimes. You will fall short. You will forget to stand tall. And God, unconcerned about what's cool, will say, that one's mine anyway. You see, God-sized dreams don't make sense. Not a bit. Because they come from the heart of the one whose ways are higher than ours. They flow from the one who stubbornly believes in grace. If not for grace, we wouldn't take a step, because it's grace that paves the road to God-sized dreams. And we walk it unworthy, utterly broken, and entirely loved. I love that. I love that thought. Just a couple more things here. She lists 5 things that get in the way. And one is, this is lie number 4. I don't deserve to dream. I think so many of us look at our lives and look at things that have happened or things that we've done or things that we've missed or messed up or whatever and think, you know what? That's just too much. That's just one more thing that God can forgive, or it's just one step farther than what He's willing to redeem. And so we feel like we don't deserve it. And the truth is, even if we lived what we would consider a perfect life or as close to it as we could get, we still wouldn't deserve it, right? Because that's why we need grace, because we were born into this sinful nature and we all mess up. We all fall short of God's plan for us and perfection. So nobody deserves it. But sometimes we let that lie just get us off track. But here's a couple of things she says about that. Your dreams aren't about you. They're about what God wants to do in His kingdom through you, and He'll use anyone. Look at some of the characters in the Bible. If adultery, murder, and deception didn't stop Him, then what you've done isn't going to either. How many of us need to hear that? Jesus took that payment for us. That's the beauty of the cross. We may live with the consequences, but we're not sentenced to a life of unfulfilled dreams and desires. I think sometimes the consequences that we live with, it may be something that nobody else knows about. And you think, well, so what kind of consequences? Well, I think a big one sometimes is that we give the devil leverage to use against us. Even if nobody knows what we did or what we didn't do or what happened or whatever, it may be totally secret and totally private, but it's in our heads, isn't it? And I think sometimes the devil will use that against us just to whisper in our heads, you know what you did. You don't deserve this. You know what you did. And we're like, yeah, you're right. You're right. I did. I don't deserve it. But the point is, nobody deserves it. And going back to that first point, our dreams aren't about us. They're about what God wants to do in his kingdom through us, and he'll use us if he wants to. That's the point of all of that. That is beautiful. That is living and aging gracefully. That is living in the full grace of God, no matter what we've ever done. And so I just want to encourage you. The point of all of that is to say, as you're thinking about next year and some things that may be on your heart that God has just put on your heart to do, but there's a part of you that's just saying, you know what? There was that time, I have this dream in my heart to do whatever. But, remember 5 years ago or 20 years ago or last week, I did that thing, or I messed up, or, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If God puts a dream in your heart, it's because he has a plan for it. There's I'm just going to go ahead and read this because I think it just needs to go with it. Because it's just so good. Let me see if I can find it without, let's see. Okay, where is it? Oh, here it is. Okay. This is under line number 2, which is, I don't have what it takes. Okay. 2 things. This lie is ultimately rooted in the belief that our God-sized dream is the same as everyone else's. When we decide that's true, it means we're competitors because there aren't enough dreams to go around. But the reality is, even if someone else's dream looks, sounds, or even feels like yours, it's not the same. God has a dream for you, your talents, your one life that has never been and never will be duplicated by anyone else. It's so important to remember. It doesn't matter if you think you're not as good as someone else. You have what it takes to fulfill the dream God has for your life, and no one else does. And listen to this. This is amazing. If the person you view as being the top in the area of your dreams were to trade places with you, it wouldn't work. Even if it seemed like they were better at it than you. That's because God isn't interested in better or the best. He can use sticks and stones to do his will if he wants. What God cares about most is your relationship with him, your obedience, your ability to hear his voice and say yes when he asks you to take a step of faith. You are the only you we have. That means your God-sized dream either happens through you or not at all. Okay, so my graced people. Oh, it's just so good. Okay. So, no excuses, right? Your dream is the dream that God has given to you, and he has given you, he's just created you this whole being of you with the talents and the desires and the insecurities and the flaws, built them into you because he has a purpose for them. We never think about that. We only think about God building into us certain talents and things like that. And he has, but he also knows where our flaws are, where our weaknesses are, and he built them in because he has a purpose to make good things come from them. And he has a way of showing his glory through them. You know what? If God accomplishes something through you or through me, in spite of our flaws, because he's used them, how does that not show his glory in a big way? And isn't that what it's really all about? So think about that as we go through we have 3 weeks until the new year. So it's time to start thinking about that. Look back and see, what did we miss this last year that we could have done, that we should have done, that's been in our hearts and we just didn't do it for one reason or another. Okay? And let's determine if that's still where God is leading, if he still has that dream in your heart, then let's make sure we don't let one of these lies stand in the way. We could have an amazing year, if we just lived free and just let God do in us and through us what he wanted to do. It could be the best year ever. I'm going to try hard to do that. You have to be honest with yourself and with God and just make it a matter of prayer every day. God, how do you want to use me today? What is it that I need to be doing for you? Make me brave, which means sometimes I'm going to be scared and I'm going to do it anyway. But anyway, so that's what I wanted to say about that, because I've been thinking about that a lot for me for the next few weeks. So I hope that as we go through these next 2 weeks till Christmas, that you do take some time just to read through the Christmas story again and think about, it's so familiar to most of us that we read through it and we don't really think about what an amazing story it is and what an amazing show of God's love it is. And let's not get caught up in all of the busyness of Christmas to the point that we forget what it's all about and what God did in that little cradle, in that little manger all those years ago. And it still has relevance today. It was the basis of everything he does today. So, have a great week. I'm using some PTO time at the end of the month, which is nice. So I got another week to work and then I'm off for a little bit. So if you're working, I hope you have a great week at work. If you're home with your kids and doing everything else, I hope it's good, and I hope you take time for yourself and time for Jesus to just spend time in prayer and just thinking about, just kind of keep reminding yourself through the day what it's all about. It will soothe your soul and hopefully calm your spirit and your nerves and let you have a peaceful Christmas season. So I will see you next week. Have a great week and take care.